Good afternoon, everybody. This is a spoiler warning for anybody who has not finished Chapter 13. We're going to be talking about significant plot points in Chapter 13 and how they affect the story in this video. We're doing things in a bit of a reverse order because usually I say the weather first. It is a beautiful day out here, just so y'all know. Let's go ahead and dig in. So my first question, which, is, I would say, legitimate. Where the fuck is Frederica? Like, you literally, the last time we saw Frederica, she was like dead, seemingly on the ground. You don't kill Frederica off screen. Engelbert was in the same situation. We got to see Engelbert. Why didn't we get to see Frederica? If Frederica is dead, I am going to be very upset because I love Frederica and they pretty much would have killed her off screen. For any of you who do know if Frederica is still alive, please post in the comment section down below. No, don't do that. But man, fucking Frederica, where is she? Next, let's talk about the characters that have died. Fucking Shadowlynx. Why did Shadowlynx die? She's incredible. Like, I don't why did they have to kill her? Like, so many people love her. I loved her as a character. Is Mont not allowed to have two shinobis now? Like, it's so frustrating. I can get killing Sosha. I can get, killing Valet. They were kind of annoying characters if we're being candid. But they left little Leela alive, which, like, I understand, right? Like, one of the key trends in the storytelling of this game is kind of how characters evolve, right? Like, Mont has, transitioned to become King Mont. Stern has transitioned to become Ruin Stern. Helena is most likely going to make a return, I think, as Black Rose Helena here in the near future. So there's this trend of like characters transforming or evolving or changing in some way. I'm sure we're going to see something with little Leela. I kind of wish she would have just gotten a sword through the chest and we had Sosha instead. Her character is annoying. I hated her the last two chapters. And honestly, the jokes on her name were not that funny. Let's talk about Fishnet Samurai Girl. Now, I don't know her name right off the top of my head. I think it's Dia. But all of a sudden she spots Mont and is like 100% loyal to Mont now. Like, it's weird. It's weird. She's like, now I'm going to die for you, my lord. And I will, like, wait, like, where does this come from? Right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Her character, like, definitely towards these, like, last chapters, War of the Visions has some great storytelling, but it also has storytelling that's like, I am a character who's immediately going to change my personality for the sake of story. And I feel like Dia is one of those characters, right? She's just like, oh, suddenly, I'm Team Leonis now. Always been Team Leonis. We're following Mont. I'm sure he'll get to Ovis eventually, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, she's I don't know. While we're talking about characters that are a little weird, let's talk about Aldoa for the past two chapters. Like, Aldoa is literally like standing there as people are getting eaten by Moraga, and she's literally like, yes, Moraga will eat me too, and I will love it because I love him, right? Like, it's like, what are you doing, Aldoa? Like, she's an interesting character, but she did not need to be there at all. Now, I do think the ending with Moraga and Aldoa was very interesting, and while we're talking about the idea of changing characters and evolving characters, I think the idea of Moraga's relationship with Aldoa, Moraga dying, being kind of like this catalyst for Aldoa maybe to try and overthrow the new ruler of Fennis, who really disrespected Moraga. Like, I think that's amazing. Did Aldoa need to be there for the last two chapters, standing on the sidelines, being like, yeah, dude, hope you don't get eaten by Moraga, right? Like, Aldoa sounded like a peacock or a parrot, just like, oh, you got bitten by the snake now. Like, you're gonna fucking turn into a snake man, Rob. And then Mont kills Rob, and let's be honest, right? Like, that's the sensible thing to do, which Mont being sensible, first of all, is like, what, right? Like, if we're following the storyline, right? Like, but even then, you have Engelbert witnessing the murder, and now Engelbert at the end of the story is like, I'm gonna be a fucking asshole even though my king was going to turn into a snake man and Mont did the responsible thing with the queen, what I really know, because I'm Engelbert, is that Mont did it so that he could become the king of Horn. That's what I know for a fact. Like, Engelbert, what are you doing? Like, why is your brain so stupid? Like, I love Engelbert. I love Frederica. What? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I love the story. It's good. But there's so many, like, little frustrating character flaws. So many little things not explained. Like, is Mont the king of Horn now? Like, did that just magically happen because he's in the throne room of Horn, maybe with Mashery? But maybe that's because a giant fucking crystal is floating over Leona's castle. The crystal, pretty damn cool, right? Not really explained yet, but very cool. And it brings kind of some interesting thoughts and some interesting character development as well, right? You kind of look towards the end and you have Glaciella, right? And of course, Glaciella being this great, you know, she had a great plot point going. You know, she actually was like a semi-reasonable character making semi-reasonable decisions. Now Glaciella sees that giant crystal coming out of the ground and she's like, can I trust Mont? Why would he have abandoned me? There's a giant fucking crystal over Leona's castle, Glaciella. Like, what? Like, Glaciella's looking at that crystal over Leona's castle right now. And she's just like, wow, Mont abandoned me for this? For a giant fucking crystal that's floating in the sky? Like, yeah, I would abandon you too, Glaciella. Your kingdom doesn't mean shit. It doesn't have a crystal under it, as far as we know yet. So there's just, like, part of it made me laugh. Part of it was like, this is really good, right? And of course, I'm coming at this from like a satirical perspective as well. But yeah, let's talk about some other things that I'm definitely thinking about. Where the fuck's Adelard and Salir? Like, that's what I want to know. Where's Adelard and Salir? Their stories never got wrapped up. Who's actually dead? We don't know. Did they just murder a bunch of people off screen? Also, let's talk about pregnancy, because a lot of characters are pregnant now. You have Venera, who's pregnant. You have Liarte, who's apparently with child, right? And who knows whose child it is. I'm guessing it's Bellows. But there are way too many pregnant characters in the story right now. And whenever you have a bunch of pregnant characters, this is exactly what I think is going to happen. I think there's going to be a time skip. Maybe not now, maybe not later. There's probably going to be a couple key points in the story where, like, children, like, the women are giving birth as like a transformational part in the story, right? But I have a feeling if it doesn't happen in part 2, it's probably going to happen in part 3, where there is a time skip and we start seeing these other characters become main characters, which would be really interesting. Calling it right now, part 2, Mashery is going to get pregnant. It just has to happen. And maybe Glaciella is going to get pregnant too. I'm not sure who would impregnate them, but it's on my mind. Also, when we were looking at the cliff with Glaciella, can anyone else not say that Miranda was the one that looked the best up there? Fucking Miranda, one of the best characters in the game. I love her. Finally, we have one more point of conversation, and that is Seymour and Gilgamesh. Did they just walk off? Like, Seymour never got his wine or his beer or whatever it was Gilgamesh promised him. All you see is Gilgamesh kind of up in his castle, right? Saying like, oh, I'm gonna have to get involved. The crystal has emerged, you know, blah, 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 blah. He never gave fucking Seymour what he wanted. Like, Seymour, guys, that was a main plot point, right? Right? He needed to get his alcohol. It was supposed to be the best alcohol he'd ever tasted. So yeah, that's kind of all the points that I have about the last story. Of course, there's lots of things to talk about. There's lots of different directions we could go. Oh, gosh, where do I think it's going to go from here? Well, of course, you know, I'm hoping that there is some type of crazy-ass Esper inside that crystal that we're going to have to kill and defeat. Of course, I'm hoping that there's more crystals in the other kingdoms, which there probably is. In regards to what's inside the crystal, no fucking clue, right? Can they just not be in Leonis right now? Is that why they're at Horn? Is it suddenly because you have a giant-ass crystal over your castle, you have to abandon your castle? Like, what's going on there? Also, the Sottily thing with Stern, what is actually, I can't tell if it's written like intentionally or if it's written not intentionally and it's just bad writing, but it turns out to be accidentally good. But I really do like the idea of Sottile calling Stern like his son, right? Even Sottile's a father figure, right? He's, you know, whatever he is in the church, right? You call them father. I think it's a little bit poetic, right? I think it's maybe a little bit of foretelling that Stern is going to be the one that kills Sottile, because, you know, Stern has a habit of killing his father. You never know. I imagine it might be a little bit of clever foretelling, or, you know, whatever. It could just be terrible writing and I am reading into it just a little bit too much. Are there any other characters I'm forgetting? Well, King Rob, I wish he would have ended like when we were getting the King Rob VC, I was like, oh yeah, King Rob's gonna make like a final last stand and he's gonna do something epic. No, did not happen. Did not happen. I was expecting him to like go out dying, fighting Moraga. No. Let's talk about Ketone as well. Did anyone else think Moraga was going to eat Ketone? Like, why does Ketone have plot armor and none of these other characters have plot armor? They're going to kill off Shadowlings. Like, Ketone is literally in Moraga's mouth and he lets her go. He spits her out. Like, what is going on? Why does Ketone have this god tier plot armor? We'll just have to find out, won't we? Like, what is so important about Ketone? Can she not die because Mont's still there and he needs his shinobi? Like, honestly, I would have been happier if Ketone had died and Shadowlings had to become Mont's shinobi, right? Because of course Rob is dead, so Shadowlings working for Mashery now would work with Mont, right? Assuming that they're married? Question mark? Maybe they're not? Who knows, right? Like, who really knows at this point? This is like, you know, if someone took, gosh, Game of Thrones, but then made the characters make nonsensical, crazy decisions. Sometimes they make the right decisions. Sometimes they make crazy ass decisions and kind of pushed it all together. Like, I like the plot. It just feels like, you know, a little bit like a 13-year-old's Game of Thrones fan what's it called? Fan fiction. There we go. Fan fiction. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think it's fun. Like, the wildness of the story towards the last chapter, like, section has been fun. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, I would say, but it's fun. It's interesting. It keeps me going, right? Like, I'm definitely interested to see where the rest of the storyline goes. That's about all. That's about all about how I feel with the storyline. If you guys are all in the same boat as me, leave a comment down below. And as always, have a great rest of your day, everybody, and peace out.